Ho, ho, ho!
Welcome to the Haunted Hangover podcast. I'm Louie, and as always, I'm joined by my bud Dave.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays to
My eyes itching
everyone.
the hell out of me right now.
Then you got a hair stuck in there or something.
Yeah, that's usually what happens.
A beard hair, maybe.
You know what's funny? It's always funny whenever I'm freaking digging in the eye, and then it's always just a little eyelash. And it's just like, this is what's causing this fucking pain and suffering.
This burning sensation in my eyeball.
It's so funny.
It's better than well, we both have beards. My beard's a little bigger than yours. That's worse. That's worse. A beard hair is worse than an eyelash hair.
How the hell do you get a beard hair in your eye?
It has happened. They get loose when they fall off. I think one morning I woke up and I just had a random beard hair in my, I forget where the tear duct, right, that area, and it was quite painful and
I can imagine.
Excruciating. Worse than an eyelash. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
And speaking of beards and beard hairs and someone that has a beard,
we're talking about the man. Go ahead, take it away from me.
What Saint Nick? What else does he have? What's his other?
Claus.
Santa Claus. Papa Noel. I heard that growing up as a Latino.
I've never heard that one. But
Papa Noel. Papa Noel.
Santa Claus, Old Saint Nick, Kris Kringle. What else?
Kris Kringle.
I think that's all the ones I know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other ones. Papa Noel was the new one I wanted to bless you with and bless the listeners.
Yeah, I never
with,
heard that one.
I'll be honest, I don't hear it often, but I think I remember as a kid hearing Papa Noel.
I wonder. I have to ask Sheila when she comes back if she knows that, because I have a feeling she probably does.
You're dating a Latina, so she would definitely know. I'm assuming she would know Papa Noel. I think
she
specifically Spanish people know Papa Noel. And this is the third time we're doing this, Dave. Once again,
we're gonna run out of Santas. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen.
Eventually, we're probably gonna have to take one holiday season not do
it, just to wait and see what new Santa Clauses come out.
Honestly, there's a lot of Santas out there. There are a lot of Santas, but we have to dig deep. I'm sure there's people listening to us dude, there's a lot of Santas out there. We just have to really think about it. Because remember, last year we did this. It was a personal Santa too. We had picks that were from our personal lives. One of my picks is more of a personal pick, not from pop culture, from a movie or show or something like that. So we can always take from life as well and bring in a Santa that, it could be an experience we had this year. Hey, I went to a mall and I saw the Santa Claus getting arrested or some shit. Who knows? That could be an iconic Santa.
That absolutely is an iconic Santa.
That would be an iconic Santa to you.
Definitely.
And speaking also of iconic Santa, some new, I guess, or a Santa I think will become
I want to see this movie,
is Violent Night. Yep. And I'm gonna talk about it briefly in the open of the show here. I won't get into any spoilers because Dave, you've yet to see it.
Because I want to see it.
And it just came out the time of this recording. Literally, it came out a few days ago. So, I don't want to spoil it. I think everyone. I'll say this at the top. I think everyone this holiday season before the new year should go out and watch Violent Night. First things first, and I'll end with David Harbour's interpretation of Santa, because that was one of my favorite aspects of the film. But I'll say this. It's basically Die Hard, Home Alone, and the Santa Claus combined. That's the best way.
Yeah, that's perfect.
That is literally the way I could describe this movie. It knows what it is. I'll say this. Some of the performances, like John Leguizamo, I was surprised by him.
He's in that. I saw him in the trailer.
He's the villain of the film, hamming it up, but in the best way possible. The one-liners, his presence.
Oh, he's funny, John Leguizamo.
Oh, I love John. I've always liked John Leguizamo since the 90s, when he first came out. And
was he the Pest?
Yes, he was the Pest. I love the Pest. He was in Tu Wong Fu. He was in
he's great.
An underrated movie that I've always been a big fan of, Hanging with the Homeboys. That was really early in his career. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's probably, besides David Harbour and the little girl that's in the movie, he's the standout of the film. It's violent, it's gory, it's also heartwarming, which I really liked. So going into it, I didn't know much. I didn't read reviews. I didn't know
about the movie until Sheila showed me the trailer.
She showed you the trailer? Yeah. It got a pretty wide release. It's playing in most,
it's
theaters.
Only playing in theaters right now.
Which is awesome. You
can't stream it anywhere,
Yeah, I'm glad to see that the movie is not on like Netflix simultaneously as,
right.
Theater.
That doesn't bother
me.
Like I don't know if that bothers you or not, but that aspect of like that new thing that they've been doing, I don't personally care. Like, whatever way I could see this thing is fine with me. So if I can watch it from the comfort of my own home, that's great too.
I like going to the movies. So there's been times like, Halloween Ends that just came out a few months ago. That was on Peacock and theaters. I went to the theaters because I wanted to see it on the big screen. I just like going to the movie theaters. But back to Violent Night. Yeah, man, it was a lot of fun. It was, again, I don't want to get too into it because I feel like I'll slip up and spoil the movie.
Don't slip up.
So
we don't need that.
Dude, it was a lot of fun. And David Harbour, Stranger Things, I feel like when we see him now and stuff, that we just think of Hooper. Like, that's Hopper. Just who we... Hopper. So, Hooper. What the fuck?
Damn, boy.
Hopper. Sorry, guys. Hopper. We think of Hopper because, he, at this point, that's kind of the role that made him. But I'll tell you what, dude, him as Santa Claus... Violent Night's going to become a movie I think people watch every holiday season.
I can see that.
Like with Krampus. Like, I feel like Krampus and Violent Night would be a great double feature.
Which, by the way, there is some loose Krampus sequel that's out there that just got released. I don't think it has anything to do... Yeah. No. I don't think it has anything to do with the original franchise, but it's like those Amityville movies that people just keep making and attaching that name to. I think it's like one of those.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Krampus is in the public domain, so anyone can make a Krampus movie. That's what it is. But yeah, dude, I feel like Violent Night would go great. Different types of film, like the big budget Krampus, the Michael Daughtry, the one that was in theaters in 2015. That Krampus and Violent Night would make an excellent double feature during the holidays of kind of black comedy, horror, holiday Christmas movies. They just work well together. Very heartwarming, but also gory and violent and kind of creepy. So it works. And I could say this, dude, David Harbour, again, to kind of go back to that, his depiction of Santa is just great, dude. He's fantastic in this movie. He's almost like a Santa that's been doing this so long, he's over it and over what the world's become without spoiling it too much. Yeah. And he accidentally is just put in this tough situation, but since he's Santa Claus and a good person, he's got to help this family deal with some crazy shit. So, and just even the way he looks with the beard and the long hair and the suit, I was like, damn, I was this close to swapping out one of my picks for David Harbour's, depiction of Santa from Violent Night. But I was like, nah, it's still too new of a movie. Got to let it simmer a bit, to become iconic. I mean, honestly, we can make iconic Santa. It's just to us personal. It's whatever we want it to be. So I could have done it, but I also didn't want to spoil the movie because it's so new. So maybe, honestly, I could see us maybe doing an episode just covering the movie, maybe next holiday season or something like that. Let a year pass by.
Listen, go ahead.
I'd recommend it. I thought it was a fun movie.
Listen, I don't, for me, it doesn't really matter to see a movie in theaters or from home.
Yeah.
But I would love to go see this movie and I gotta go to the theater. That's absolutely fine.
It's a theater experience to me personally. And during the holidays.
We're hoping the Colonial Theater, which is right up the block from our, our place, is gonna have it because that's A, an awesome movie theater, and B, that's my one compromise. if I can go see a movie at like an old movie theater,
cool
like the
theater?
Colonial,
Yeah.
then I'll opt to do that. But like going to like IMAX, like it just doesn't do anything.
Or like
for
Regal.
Me.
I get it.
Yeah, it doesn't do shit for me.
Yeah, you don't want to go to like a multiplex. I understand. But at the same time, I think like seeing this and in the theater while watching Violent Night, dude, people were laughing, clapping. There was a dude clapping. I was like, oh shit. So people were really enjoying the film. And it just was like a good feeling. So to see a movie that is obviously it's a ridiculous movie. Like, I'm not gonna lie,
it looks so silly,
but silly in like a great fun way. You know what I mean?
Was there a lot of people in the theater?
A good amount here in Queens, but I live in New York, so I feel like all theaters have people in them. So that you never. I couldn't tell you what was the last movie I saw where there was like 3 other people only in the theater. Like every screening, there's always people. Maybe like on a Monday at 1 p.m. if the theater will be empty, but it was a good amount of people. I'm pretty sure it made time of this recording. It was like number 2 in like so that's good. It made money.
Yeah,
it couldn't beat Black Panther or whatever that's out right now, but obvious that's a given. It's not going to beat Marvel a Marvel movie. That's impossible. But it was really good, and if you listen to our show, I'm telling you, check it out this holiday season. It's a very, very fun holiday film, not for the kiddies. For the adults, but it's a lot of profanity, a lot of violence, but a very well made, kind of Killer Santa movie, but he's the good guy.
He's a good guy. Yeah.
I'll leave it at that. It's a Killer Santa movie, but he is the good guy in this one.
They're naughty. And what do you do to the naughty ones?
I give them a lump of coal.
Yeah, give them their lumps. Take that coal and shove it straight up their
anuses.
Yeah.
So yes, Dave, we're gonna be talking about some more iconic Santas, and like you said, it's been tough picking them, but I still think there's a lot out there. You know what's funny? I was running through my list, and while doing that, I came across like 2 or 3 other ones that I could pick in the future. Yeah. But you're right. It's kind of like you want to pick some. It's getting harder to pick exotic Santas that not everyone knows.
Right.
Like last year you picked Black Santa's Revenge. That's a very
Ken
deep
Forey.
cut.
Yeah. No, yes. I'm sure there's not many people that have seen it.
So that was a good pick. So this year I think our picks, minus maybe 1 or 2, are pretty well known. Pretty well. They're from pretty well known films, and then one of my picks is not a film. It's just it's a pretty iconic, I guess, thing you'd see during the holiday season.
Absolutely.
But Dave,
and you know what's funny? You just reminded me of something, and I'm not even going to say it because I'm already claiming it for. Right, so then I'm already claiming it for next year.
A little tease of the Santa we might be talking about next year. But so Dave, we'll let you go first. What's your first pick?
So I'm gonna coincide it with our latest Patreon episode that we covered To All a Good Night. Now, if anyone that listens to the regular podcast has not seen this movie or doesn't subscribe to the Patreon, skip this right now.
Listen, this is what I'm going to say. If you're not subscribed to the Patreon, what are you doing, man? Support Haunted Hangover.
Thank you. That's a better answer. That's a better answer. All I'm saying is there's a spoiler alert right now. So here it goes. So my first iconic Santa I chose is the Dual Santa Killers from David Hess's To All a Good Night, which came out in 1980. As we have already discussed in the latest Patreon episode, this film is considered to be the first 80s slasher. I'm choosing the Santa in this film, or I should say Santas in this film, for 2 reasons. The cheap rubber masks that are in any and every capacity creepy and eerie, and the fact that this film, again, is considered the first 80s slasher, to me, makes these Santas iconic just by association with that claim. Would you agree with that?
I agree 100%.
Yeah. So for me, this was kind of like a light. There's like a light reason why I chose this, but I think it's a very valid reason. Valid reasons that they were chosen. And listen, the masks themselves, they're pretty lifeless, which also adds to its creepiness. Mm-hmm. I mean, the mask has rosy cheeks. we get what looks to be like blue eyeshadow underneath the eyes, which I thought was weird.
It is weird.
But again, it adds to it. And now this is something, as I was taking my notes, I realized, I was like, oh, this might be, the nose is circular. What I think that whoever made these masks, they repurposed clown masks and made them Santa Claus masks.
Oh, shit.
Because
I
it's
didn't notice that.
Circular nose.
You're probably right.
And they just, painted it red.
Wow.
I'm sorry. They didn't paint it red. That's what I meant to say.
They basically left the red nose. That might be why there's like that weird blue eyeshadow situation on the mask too, possibly.
Saying. I see.
Wow, dude. It's funny. We did not even mention that in our Patreon episode.
We didn't even go over the mask. So it works, though.
It works because we're covering it here, but some supplementary information from the Patreon over onto the main show. But that is a good pick. It's funny. Another thing we didn't mention in our Patreon episode about To All a Good Night, our dive into that film. Technically, and I was thinking about it while I was editing that show, Tales from the Crypt, the original film from the 70s, I believe it's early 70s, did have a killer Santa Claus in it. We completely bypassed that and kind of said like this was the first killer Santa type deal. In reality, it's not, but I believe it is the first kind of masked killer Santa, killer Santa slash, a mouthful there, killer Santa slasher type deal. Well, it's definitely the first one.
I think it's just more so. It's the first consider the first 80s slasher that involves Santa.
Yeah, so there's nothing else like it where multiple people, because even the Tales from the Crypt, and that could be a pick too. I think on our first ever Iconic Santas episode from a few years ago, if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it. I picked the Tales from the Crypt episode. I forget what it was called. I think it's All Through the House, I believe is what it's called. And All Through the House.
Which is great.
Which is great. I forget the actor's name. Dr. Giggles.
Mary Ellen something.
Yes.
The mom from the Goonies.
Goonies, yes, and Monster Squad, I think, if I remember correctly. But he's a killer Santa in that, and that was my first pick. The first time we ever did Iconic Santas, and that's based on the original Tales from the Crypt from the 70s. So that was like technically the first killer Santa, but you're right. In the more traditional slasher movie sense, To All a Good Night has the real first killer Santa kind of get up deal, and he's murder. Well, he and she, I should say, he and she are murdering multiple people in that film, and the design of a mass killer wearing a really eerie rubber latex mask. That's kind of the first time that's happened before. Well, Michael Myers, I guess, but in the new 80s era of slasher films, that's kind of the first one, But that's definitely a good pick, and everything about that Santa is eerie. And again, I think it doesn't get enough props. Even after we talked, I was thinking about it. I was like, this movie does not get enough love.
It doesn't.
And I get really why. Doesn't. It's not the most amazing slasher movie in the world.
No, it's not bad, though.
But it's got a pretty spooky killer in it, and it's got, it's set on a holiday, which, many slasher films have, are set on holidays.
Once again, it does not have any Christmas feel at all. But
we definitely went into greater detail. We went into greater detail in the Patreon episode. So we dove deep.
So head over to that if you're not subscribing and take a listen. And we're pretty faithful to that, so we're always recording for that.
Don't sleep. Support Haunted Hangover. Head over to our Patreon.
Do it.
He's dead.
Who's dead?
God, he's dead.
What happened?
DJ. Oh my God, we're gonna die. We're all gonna die!
So my first pick, this isn't going to be anything major. I don't have a lot to say about my first pick, but to me, this is an iconic Santa on both a personal level and something I saw a lot growing up and for some reason do not see anymore. And that is the blow mold Santa head. Now, you see blow molds. You see them still in front of houses, a little snowman, a full body Santa, but you don't see the blow mold Santa head. And my grandmother had one of these. I vividly remember when it was not Christmas, seeing it in her closet, and one time it scared the shit out of me. It was just leaned up against the wall in this big closet she had in her old apartment. And I've always just liked the way it looks. It's a little odd looking. The Santa looks like he smoked the fucking doobie. His eyes are like half shut, and he's got these rosy cheeks and like a shit-eating grin on his face. But I've always loved it. I feel like, for me at least, it brings me back to my childhood. I get that nostalgic feel for it, like the nostalgic feels anytime I see it. And I usually only see pictures of it because I don't think I've seen one of these in person on someone's house door or outside of their house, in someone's apartment, inside of someone's home in years. Did you ever have one of these, Dave?
So I seen this all the time as well. I don't know if we owned one. I'm pretty sure my aunt and uncle I've definitely mentioned their house before on the podcast. I'm pretty sure they had it. But I think if you're in the age range from 25 to 40, or I mean even older than that, you know what we're talking about. Yeah. And yeah, they were everywhere. I've seen them pop up still. Like, I've seen them on some people. Yeah, I feel like I've seen just the head itself, like, put on someone's front door, like a window or whatever. But yeah, I absolutely remember this. And this is the thing that reminded me of the pick that I'm going to choose next year. So I will tell you what it's going to be when we're done. But
yeah, I got to tease the listeners with that one. But my grandmother had one, and she'd put it out every year. It would go on, I believe she put it on her window because it would make no sense to go on a door. She lived in an apartment building, so it was a little different. So she would put it in the window. And I always, like, really thinking about it, it is really odd. It's just this head, this big plastic head of Santa Claus just glaring back at you with the munchies. That's basically what it was. And I'm sure most of our listeners know what I'm talking about. Google Santa head blow mold if you're not familiar with this thing, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And this one specific is the one I like, where his eyebrows are way up here, and then he's got the hat leaning, kind of, his eyebrows and his hat are almost kind of connected, like his white eyebrows blend in with the little white part of the Santa hat. And then he's got the rosy cheeks. His mouth is just oddly open. It's just weird. And then his eyes are half shut. He just looks like he's high. That's basically
it's just like, hey, I'm fucking jolly, man.
I'm jolly, man. I just had some milk and cookies. Man. I just had some milk and cookies, man. That's basically, he's like a Cheech and Chong Santa. That's basically what he is. He does look high, dude, right? Am I the only one that sees that?
Yeah, I can see that.
He looks a little
I never
burnt
thought
out.
of it that way, but I to me, he just always looked happy. Like, just real happy that he's Santa Claus.
He's really excited.
That's what I always got from it.
This Santa's really happy that you just hung up his severed head on the wall and it's glowing. He's proud that his head is just glowing in your living room. So yeah, that was my first pick, the blow mold Santa head.
Okay.
No, I want an official red undercover knife and 200 jet with my rifle.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid. Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho.
My second choice is a pretty obvious one, and I think I have some pretty good reasonings why I chose this Santa Claus, and this is the Santa Claus from A Christmas Story, which came out in 1983. Let me just say something before I even go into this. For a minute, I was like, yo, this movie came out in 83? I thought it came out way earlier than that, because it takes place in, what, the 50s or something?
I'm pretty sure it's the 50s, yeah.
Yeah, like, he does such a good job of it. So, listen, just being associated with this film, the Santa is iconic. It is, I mean, I don't think anyone would argue this is the most iconic Christmas movie. Yeah. Like, would you agree with that?
Dude, they play this on, like, repeat every year on TNT. It's just over. They'll play A Christmas Story 3 times in a row.
Yeah, it's just all day.
Everything about crazy. A Christmas Story is iconic, especially with the holiday. It makes sense.
It's funny. I can never wrap my head around how he directed the exact opposite of this
Black
movie
Christmas.
with Black Christmas.
Yeah.
Because that movie is just fucking cruel and manic and one of the best horror films made. So,
way more mean-spirited when compared to it's like, don't get me wrong, this Santa scene is pretty mean-spirited, so maybe that makes sense when you think about Bob Clark and just him as a director. He's like, okay, kids love Santa, I'm gonna make the Santa in my movie a dick. Like, that's
a
basically,
dickhead.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And listen, the entire movie is based around Santa bringing Ralphie a BB gun. And when Ralphie gets to the mall, shopping center, whatever they are, do they call it a mall in the movie? Because I don't remember.
I think it's one of those situations where it's like Santa, and it kind of works with one of my picks when I get to it.
Macy's or JCPenney's or
either
some shit.
Macy's or JCPenney, or even like they rented out this space and made a winter wonderland and just had like a Santa meet there or something like that. That's kind of what I thought it was because they live in a small town. So
right. So, like, this setup is already elaborate to go meet Santa. It's basically this jolly dude sitting at top of a fake snow mountaintop. Yeah. And it's really awesome, honestly. It's a cool set.
Yeah.
There's tons of kids waiting and literally scared to meet Santa Claus. Santa's ho-ho-hos aren't pleasant at all. Santa's elves look so annoyed and clearly can't wait to get out of there. We get these silly close-ups of Santa and his caricature motions, and once Ralphie climbs back up the slide, which again is an incredible part of the meeting Santa gimmick, because once they're done, they send him down the slide, which is so good. The best
part.
He asks Santa for the BB gun, and this is another reason to add this to an iconic to the iconic Santa status, where he tells the kid, "You'll shoot your eye out, kid."
That's the most iconic line from the movie. So,
and there's many reasons to lay claim that this Santa is iconic, and just being part of this film establishes that. But I just gave you a bunch, so I think this Santa definitely deserves to sit on the list.
This is probably, out of our entire list, the most iconic. No, I think this is the most iconic Santa we've covered so far and talked about. I agree, dude. This Santa is odd looking. There's something off. They did that on purpose. The way they shot it, where he's like, is he kicking him in? Like he's forcing the kid, right?
Well, no, like they throw him down. They toss him down the slide. Then he stops. He climbs back up, and then he just like lightly pushes his foot on Ralphie's head. And
it's just pretty twisted when you think of. And then the way they shoot it. It like it almost flips from like Ralph, like his POV almost as the foot's coming down, right? Mm-hmm. If I remember correctly. Yeah, it's always it's one of those things where this looks like it should be a kid's dream come true with the slide and Santa and everything. Absolutely. But it's like a nightmare. It's like just weird. It's just such an odd scene.
Dude, like, there's kids peeing themselves. There's kids crying and screaming. Ralphie's little brother, like, cries and screams. And the funniest part is when Ralphie gets down to the slide, his little brother is just sitting there. Is just sitting on the fake patch of snow, just pissed.
Yo, dude, it's funny because when you think about it, when you're that age, Santa Claus is fucking scary. And I think we've talked about it. The concept of Santa Claus is frightening. Well, so when you're 2 or 3, it's just odd.
Yeah. You know what I think it is? I think it's the proportion of Santa Claus. Like, you have this, and listen, I'm not like fat shaming or body shaming, but Santa Claus is generally a heavier person. So you have this big hulking person. They have a giant beard. They have a giant hat, and they're dressed in red. So like as a kid or whatever you can, whatever kind of sensory you have, it's pretty unsettling.
Yeah. And then you have to sit on this strange man's lap. And 90% of the time you're doing it because your parents want that picture. It's not even like, I think when you get older, when you're maybe like 7 or 8, you're like, okay, I'm going to go and tell Santa what I want. But when you're like 4 or 5, it's just an awkward situation. You're just on this random dude. And it's crazy because I was at the mall a few days ago and kids, I didn't think that was a thing anymore. They still sit on his lap. I was shocked. I was like, oh, maybe they stand next to him now. You know, it's a different time now.
Dude,
nope. Kids still sit on his lap.
They're still doing it. I saw some funny-ass post on Instagram, and it was like goth kids with Santa Claus, like at the mall.
I want us to take a Santa picture. I want you and I to go.
I would love to.
We have to do it one year. I've been wanting to do it for a few years now. We just haven't had the chance to do it. I want us to go and just, like all of us, like just go take a picture with Santa Claus. It'd be hysterical. It'd be amazing. But
there was one photo I saw of like these two friends or this couple, and it's like one girl, or at least I think it might be a woman, whatever pronouns they use, and it's like a guy, whatever pronouns they use, and they're on one side of each one of them are on one side of Santa, and the one person has a chain around their neck, and the other person's holding them, and Santa Claus is just kind of like, okay, is this picture like, what is this fucking picture? It's hilarious.
That's fucking amazing. I have to see that. That sounds amazing. That just sounds hilarious. Like hilarious. I bet you that Santa was like, why the fuck do these people want a picture with me?
They're just like, okay.
He's just like, all right, whatever. They're paying money to take a picture with Santa. We're not gonna tell them no. So that's amazing. But yeah, this was a good pick too, Dave. This is again probably the Christmas Story Santa. I don't think we'll ever be able to top that when it comes to iconic Santas. He is, besides Santa Claus as a character, this is as iconic as you could probably get. So
I agree.
Maybe we'll one up it one day, but off the top of my head right now, I can't think of another Santa Claus that comes to mind that would top this one that's known. So,
well, I think the one I'm going to choose next year might.
Oh, okay.
But I'll tell you once we're done. I'll tell you. Sorry to leave everybody on a cliffhanger there, but you won't know until next year.
Cliffhanger until next holiday season. What Santa Dave's picking?
Wait, hold on a second. My elf took the last of the candy canes home to her boyfriend.
That's okay.
No, don't be silly. Everybody sees Santa's got to get something. Here, pull out your little paw there. There you go. Don't spoil your dinner.
I won't. Thanks.
So my second pick is from another, I'd say, like A Christmas Story, iconic Christmas film. And this is the miserable, I call it just the miserable Santa from Home Alone, the 1990 film Home Alone that I'm sure...
I forgot about this Santa Claus. This is a good pick.
It's a great pick. It's one of my favorites. Everyone knows Home Alone. I'm not going to get into it. Most of our listeners probably know Home Alone more than they do A Christmas Story, I'm sure. Especially if you're a little younger, you probably are more familiar with Home Alone, probably even like Home Alone more. So you probably know the scene I'm talking about. So to set up the scene, you've got Kevin McAllister, Macaulay Culkin. You know, we all know he's alone, he's home alone. Got the wet bandits after him.
Damn.
They want to steal money or some. They want to steal shit from his house, and he's been alone for a day or two, and he wants to go visit Santa because he wants to tell Santa that the only thing he wants for Christmas is his family back. All of them, even his brother Buzz, the douchey asshole.
Even Uncle Frank.
Uncle Frank, yeah, because Uncle Frank's an asshole to Kevin too. He sucks. He sucks in both movies. He sucks in part 2 too. But the way the scene kind of plays out, you've got Kevin walking, and he goes to this little hut, and you see a female elf.
She's a
locking
babe.
Up. Yep, she's a babe.
1,000,000%.
She's chewing gum, locking up the little Santa shack they have there. Similar to A Christmas Story. It's not a mall Santa. It's more like they built this little house for the Santa to sit in and kids to visit. So you've got the elf. Kevin compliments her elf shoes, her pointy shoes, and there's a cute little shot of them moving, and she just looks at him and she goes, "Hey, you didn't miss him. He's right over there trying to get into his car." That's the best line because it doesn't faze Kevin at all. He's just like, "Oh, Santa's over there." He goes, "Yeah, you almost missed him, but he's right there." So Kevin's walking over. This Santa Claus, he's wearing like a winter jacket. His car's beat to shit. He's driving like a beater car. Smoking a cigarette. And he sees, it's the best. He sees Kevin approaching him and he's like, oh shit. And he takes one more drag of the cigarette and then chucks it and then waves the smoke around. And then I think Kevin comes up to him and then he realizes that his beard is low. It's below his Silent Night, Deadly Night style. It's below his chin. So he fixes it. And Kevin tells him, like, look, I know you're not the real Santa, but you work for him. And this is the whole thing where he goes into the whole spiel about, wanting his family back. And there's just some small details about this Santa that I love. Again, you mentioned the cigarette. I don't know if you noticed, but the way the scene ends, he gives Kevin, because he doesn't have candy canes because his elf took the rest of the candy canes to give to her boyfriend. I love how they play it back to that elf that Kevin met like a second ago. And he gives Kevin Tic Tacs because he doesn't want to leave him, empty-handed. Santa's got to give the kids something when he sees them. And in the shot, the one detail I love, he's got his cigarettes in his belt. You see the pack of cigarettes just like tucked into the belt in like his Santa belt. It's fucking amazing.
It's great.
It's a really, honestly, you would like just describing it, you would think this is like the most sleaze baggy Santa.
It's very heartwarming.
It's a very heartwarming scene, and it shows you that even though this guy, like, as a Santa Claus is having a shitty day, like, he's got this party to go to, he's running late, his car is breaking down, like, he's stressed. He had a long 8-hour shift dressed as Santa, and he still took a minute out of his day to like stop and talk to this random kid. He even looks confused when Kevin's like, hey, can you help me bring my family back? He just looks at Kevin like, wait, what? Like your family? But he still listens to him and he's still like really sweet to him. And just the acting is great in the scene. That actor, I don't recognize him from anything else. I'm sure he's popped up in other stuff, but I think
he's been in other stuff. His voice to me was very familiar.
Yeah, and just everything about the performance is great. And for years, dude, since I was a kid, this scene always stuck out to me. The green tick. I love that they're green because it's Christmas, so it makes sense. Like the colors, the red and the greens. I think Kevin might even be wearing a red glove, if I remember correctly. Possibly,
I think it's something like that.
Or burgundy or whatever, Christmassy color. So just the whole scene. It's cold. It looks cold. It looks like a winter wonderland. You've got the little Santa house in the distance. You've got this guy just. Probably reeks of booze and cigarettes. Still does his job though. He's off the clock. He's off the clock and still takes a minute out of his night to just talk to this poor little 8-year-old kid.
Take care of him.
Yeah, I just love the scenes, dude. And I love and then to finish the scene off, and the way it goes, he gets a parking ticket, I think that happens beforehand actually. His car breaks down.
His car just it starts and then it stops. He's like,
stalls
he said,
completely.
son of a bitch.
Yeah, he gets the ticket earlier. Then he says he's got 2 lines, or he's got one really good line. I think the one funny line, he's got a couple of good lines, but there's one where he goes like, rabies shots for the Easter bunny, like what's next? Because you gave a parking ticket to Santa. What's next? Like a rabies shot for the Easter bunny. He's this grumpy, grouchy ass Santa, but it's it's so well done. And Home Alone
still very likable. That's the thing.
Still very likable,
right?
Even though he's smoking fucking Marlboro Lights.
That's what I want my Santa to be. So hey,
chain smoking.
My neighborhood Santa's got to look like that.
I love that it's like a younger dude too. It's not, you know, like an older man. It's a guy that looks like he's maybe around our age, maybe even a little younger.
Probably.
Playing Santa. So I do like that, that they could have made it like an old man playing, like a guy in his 70s playing Santa. But no, they made it a younger dude, and very heartwarming. And I'm sure most of our listeners know this scene. And I've always thought it's a scene no one ever mentions when they think.
I forgot about it.
Yeah.
I really forgot about it.
That's why I wanted to shine a light on it in this episode. I feel like no one, everyone remembers all the other the traps and just, Kevin, Macaulay Culkin screaming and, the wet bandits and all that stuff. Everyone remembers all that, but no one remembers this really heartwarming scene with this mall Santa that just talks to Kevin for a minute and a half. The scene's short. It's like 2 minutes long.
And you know something? You say mall Santa. I don't even think it's a mall. I think it's just like a little, it's just a little hut that people go to take their kids to go see Santa Claus. That's all it is. Because it's in the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's like I said. I think I said it like literally in the beginning. It's kind of this situation where it's a small town. There's no mall, so it's just this small town setup where you meet Santa. I'm pretty sure A Christmas Story is the same way. That's kind of what they were going for.
We're going to have to look into that.
It's a little more elaborate in a Christmas Story. It's a little more elaborate because they have the slide and all that. And you never get to see the inside of the little Santa hut in Home Alone, which I like. It's ambiguous. You only see the outside of it, which is very festive. So I appreciated it. So really, really good stuff. And I feel more people should give this scene love. It's very Christmassy.
It's a good choice. So I think it's probably to me it's your best choice of the three.
I think it's my favorite of my three picks too. Great scene, great Santa, funny as hell too.
So you're ready for my last pick? And now here's the funny thing with this pick. So here's two things. A, this movie has absolutely nothing to do with Christmas.
Yes.
Everything else we've talked about has, but not this. This is not anything Christmas related, but there's a Santa Claus. And two, and I'm going to give it away right now, I'm choosing the very, very short-lived scene with Santa Claus from Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which came out in 1985 and was directed by Tim Burton. You want to know something fun? Well, I guess it's not fun, but funny.
What?
I had no idea that Tim Burton directed this movie.
What? Really?
I did not know that. Nope.
Oh, wow. I thought you would have known that.
I had no idea.
So, listen, Pee-wee's Big Adventure is an amazing movie. So.
It's great. The running theme for my Santa choices have basically been Santas being featured in iconic movies by solely being associated with their respective film. This Santa, again, has nothing to do with Pee-wee or Christmas. But it gets the iconic status, in my opinion. And we have the infamous chase scene where Pee-wee is on the movie set and he's fleeing on his bike. And he's being chased by security guards and unintentionally a boat who ends up pulling Santa and his reindeer from another movie set, along with Godzilla falling into Santa's sleigh, only to crash a Twisted Sister video shoot.
It's so good.
That is all reason that this is an iconic Santa Claus.
Yes.
That's it. That's all I have for my notes, is that this alone makes this an iconic Santa Claus. Because you remember, I mean, well, you told me you didn't remember.
I forgot, dude. I would have never in a million years picked this. Not because, I love Pee-wee. Every time we record, I've pointed it out before, my Pee-wee is right there. He's leaning over right now. I got to move him. But I've got my Pee-wee doll from the 80s right there. I fucking love, I got a Pee-wee mask right there. I love Pee-wee. And, dude, I've seen this movie a million times.
It's great. It's the best.
And I forgot that he goes through a Christmas movie set. I always get fixated on the Godzilla set, which is amazing, with like King Ghidorah, the three-headed monster and shit, too, flying around, and then the Godzilla ends up with him, and they're in the sleigh, right? Or is this? I forget. Yeah, so it's
being
like
pulled by a fucking boat.
It's so stupid. And then the Dee Snider Twisted Sister music videos. It's so funny because you describing it, like just thinking about it, it's the most random shit ever.
Yeah, it's so silly.
It's so dumb.
Silly.
And the movie, the fake like Christmas movie, is very Christmassy. It looks like it's a Christmas, like a scene that would take place in a real Christmas movie. It's a faux Christmas, but that's not a real. It's probably the only fake thing in that scene because Godzilla's a real thing and Twisted Sister's a real thing,
right?
You know what I mean?
That's a good point. Yeah.
So I guess that's maybe why I completely like this Santa never came to mind to me as a pick because of just how the absurdity of that entire scene is great.
What is that Santa Claus on the screen for? What, 40 seconds, 30 seconds, if that?
Is he like waving or something? What's he doing?
No, because they're just being pulled by the boat and it's like, moving everywhere. And they're just like, oh.
Yeah, it's so, dude, just thinking about it, I can't help but fucking laugh at how fucking dumb it is, but it's fucking amazing. It's great. Yeah. It's so good. That is a good pick. That is a really good. And fucking Pee-wee's the man, dude. Pee-wee's the fucking man. He's got, and I want us to cover it one year. He's got the Pee-wee's Playhouse has a Christmas special, so I think we might have to
definitely have to watch that. I don't remember it. I may have seen it, may have not. I don't remember. I would love to watch it.
It's fun. It's a fun. Grace Jones, if I remember correctly, is in it.
Amazing.
So I'm pretty sure it's Grace Jones. I hope I'm not wrong, but
if it is,
dude,
that's even better.
We gotta watch it. It's fun. And Pee-wee's just I don't think I've ever met a person that doesn't fucking love Pee-wee. You know what I mean? Pee-wee's the only guy as a character in anything that can bring Santa, Godzilla, and Twisted Sister together. It's the only that would only work in a Pee-wee Herman movie. Nothing else. It's completely normal in a Pee-wee movie. So. That was a great pick. I do like that you picked this one, and you know what? It's iconic to me too. So I'm glad you brought it to my attention because dude. When you told me, I was like, "Fuck! How could I forget that?" I was disappointed in myself.
Well, it's okay.
He was dressed in a Santa Claus suit. He'd been climbing down the chimney on Christmas Eve, his arms loaded with presents. He was going to surprise us.
So my last pick for our iconic Santas part 3 is, now let me give this a little introduction. There is no actual physical Santa in this scene, but a Santa is mentioned and the focal point of the scene. And to me, this scene is one of the most disturbing and odd scenes in a movie that's already ridiculous and absurd. And that is the worst Christmas ever scene from Gremlins from 1984. Similar to A Christmas Story, similar to Home Alone, similar to Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I know all of our listeners are quite familiar with Gremlins. I think it's probably up there with A Christmas Story and Home Alone 2 as iconic Christmas movies. And this is a Christmas horror black comedy. So it's perfect. Now, there are other Santas in this movie. There's one specific one where you see a gremlin on the top and the back of a Santa who's flailing his arms and being attacked by a gremlin.
I haven't seen this movie in years.
Oh,
I have
dude,
to watch it
you
again.
should watch it this Christmas. It's so good. It's so good. It's such a good movie. But the Santa I'm picking now is you've got Billy, who's the main character in the film, and his little friend Gizmo. We all know and love Gizmo. Then you've got his love interest Kate, played by Phoebe Cates, a babe and a half. I think we can all agree on that one too.
For sure.
And gremlins are running amok in the town. They're killing people. They're doing all kinds of crazy shit that gremlins do in the movie. And Billy and Kate and Gizmo run into a bank. And this is a bank that's been abandoned and it's all disheveled and destroyed because the town's going to hell. And to my recollection, if I remember correctly, it's implied that Phoebe Cates, throughout the entire film, does not like Christmas. She does not like the holiday. And out of nowhere, she explains to Billy and Gizmo, because Gizmo's there. I love the shots because you see Gizmo's reacting to her story when she's telling the story why she hates Christmas and doesn't like it. So in a nutshell, the story goes, this is how the story goes. So when she was a kid, her father died on Christmas Day. But what happened was he never came home. I believe it's from work. And he went missing. Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, came and went. And they couldn't find him. Cops went searching. They couldn't find shit. My man was MIA. Little Kate goes to try to light a fire. It's cold. It's the winter. And notices a smell. Her mother calls the firemen. And they come and they break through the chimney because that's where the smell was emanating. It was coming from the chimney. And they discover her father's corpse dressed in a Santa costume holding presents. and he broke his neck while trying to climb down the chimney and surprise him. She even says he died instantly. Now, this scene, and also I want to say this. There's one line that I love in her little...
bummer.
This is a depressing story that comes out of left field in this movie. My favorite line, it's the most depressing line, she goes, "This is how I found out Santa wasn't real or didn't exist." Because her father died dressed as Santa. It's
terrible.
Horrible. Now, I think, I know it's been years since you've watched Gremlins. Do you remember this scene at all? Did you remember it when I sent it to you?
Once I watched it, yes, I did.
It's so weird. And I have a little history on it because I Googled it, not much. I didn't do this deep dive into it, but I did Google, I was curious where this came from. Why did they pull it up? Because as a kid, when I watched Gremlins, I always thought it was eerie because it's a monologue. Billy and Gizmo, I think Gizmo makes his little noises, but there's no response. They just listen to her.
There's not a lot going on in that scene, minus whatever the natural ambience is on the set, and just Phoebe Cates giving her monologue. So it is an eerie, very eerie,
and it's a very well acted scene for something like Gremlins. You know what I mean? And you could see the sadness in the character's eyes in the execution. Just like you feel for this girl, why she hates Christmas. And now she's going through another shitty Christmas with these fucking gremlins killing everyone and destroying the town. So it's like this girl can't catch a break when it comes to the holiday, which I do like that too. Now, the reason why I think this scene's iconic is because when I did a little digging, I didn't know this, but originally this scene was not meant for the Kate character. There was going to be this random McDonald's employee or guy that owns a McDonald's in the town. They were going to have him recite this line. And they completely scrapped the scene. And Joe Dante directed Gremlins. They made the decision to give it to the Kate character, to the Phoebe Cates character, because she didn't really have much. She's kind of the damsel in distress in the movie. She's his love interest. She didn't really have a lot of meat to the bones. There wasn't really a lot to her. So they gave her this backstory to give her more oomph, to give her some more to do. And honestly, dude, I feel like this scene completely made the character. It makes this character to the point that Roger Ebert, he gave Gremlins a 3-star review, which is good for a movie like this, especially when Roger Ebert was doing it. And he mentioned this scene, highlighting it. So it shows you that the impact that this character's shitty Christmas story, depressing ass Christmas story made on the film. And I always remember it, dude. Every time I watch Gremlins, and it's not a movie I watch every Christmas. I might actually, I didn't watch it this year. I watched it last year, but maybe I'll throw it on. It's, it's one of those things when it's on TV, I'll let it play, But I always remember this scene, and I picture everything this character says in my mind. I can picture I'm picturing the dead body falling and then discovering his corpse.
Yeah, you totally picture it all.
It's so well written. And it's not, so I'm pretty sure it's based on a Christmas urban legend. They got the idea from an urban legend and then just put it.
That's also interesting because I've never heard of it.
And wrote it into the film, into the script. And everything about it is fucking amazing. It you never see the Santa, but you can picture
it. Yeah, definitely.
This Santa, and it's really grotesque in my mind, at least.
Definitely.
You can picture this scene. One more thing I want to add to the Kate character and this whole depressing scene. So there's a gag in Gremlins 2 that I love. So in Gremlins 2, they're in I'm pretty sure it's Warner Brothers, or it's a broadcast building that the Gremlins are in, and they're running amok and destroying things, and Gizmo's there again. There's a scene where Phoebe Cates again is about to tell another depressing story, and then Billy cuts her off. He's like, "Hey, we can't." He's like, "We don't have time for this," and it's hysterical.
That's amazing.
It goes to show you how memorable this scene was in the original, that they even poked fun at it in the sequel, where she's about to go into another long-winded, depressing story, and Billy's like, "Hey, listen, you're my girl, but we don't got time for this shit. Let's keep it moving.
I wonder if there actually is a scripted story that she was supposed to say. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if there actually is one.
It's just a funny gag because like she gets all serious in the sequel, and it's the same thing. She's like looking into the void, and like you can see like she's about to say this really, really like dramatic, depressing like story in this monologue. And then Billy just cuts it off. He's like, all right, we don't have time for this shit. We got to get out of here. He goes, exactly, next. Got to get out of here. It's fucking great, dude. And I always love the scene. And honestly, I feel like it would make for a great short film. Like a great story. I'm surprised.
Just to see that? That is a good idea.
I'm surprised it hasn't been adapted, you know, in some way, shape, or form. Hey, maybe I will. We'll see. I've come up with a lot of ideas on the podcast, so possibly we'll see.
I would love to do the music for that.
Yeah,
if you did
that would.
So
that,
please,
it would
please
be
do that.
Be a good little fan film. You know what I mean? A
Absolutely.
good little fan kind of an homage to Gremlins to kind of recreate the Phoebe Cates Kate story from the original Gremlins. Great scene.
I agree.
Super depressing. Also kind of funny because of how out of left field it is, and that's why I think you've got to watch it again.
Yeah.
But that's why I think it's iconic. That's why I consider it an iconic Santa. You don't see the Santa, but you can picture
see it in your mind.
Yes. You can see the grotesque details in your mind.
He slipped and broke his neck. Died instantly. And that's how I found out there was no Santa Claus.
So that was Iconic Santa Clauses Part 3. Be sure to subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Haunted Hangover. And be sure to check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/HauntedHangover31.
And if you can rate and review us, that would be greatly appreciated. And from all of us at Haunted Hangover, we'd like to wish you a happy holiday.
And as always, remember, the best cure for a hangover is
more booze.
Ho, ho, ho.
Ho, ho, ho.